Welcome back to Big Brand Energy. In this episode, I have brought on Andy Johnston, the creative force and visionary behind Expansion Media, one of Australia's best video marketing agencies for residential builders. Andy has built his reputation as a storyteller who transforms brands into industry leaders. Starting as a sole trader in 2014, Andy's passion for creating compelling narratives and crafting high-performing ad campaigns has redefined how businesses connect with their audiences. Now leading a dynamic team, Andy combines his expertise in video production and digital brand strategy to deliver game-changing results for his clients. His innovative approach to brand video marketing has helped builders not only generate leads, but also build trust and authority in their markets. This episode, we literally talk about so much. We talk a lot about Andy's mindset and also how he has managed to scale his business from sole trader to company so quickly. Andy and I are so aligned in the way we think. In fact, he actually brings his clients into On Track Studio to record content, podcasts. He started podcasts for a lot of his clients. So we just really align with what we think. And I think that this conversation would just honestly suit anyone in business because of the content that we explore isn't just about marketing. It's a lot about mindset, and we also just have a conversation. I know I love those kinds of episodes. So without further ado, I will see you in there. Thank you so much.
This podcast is brought to you by On Track Studio.
Andy Johnston with a T. Welcome to Big Brand Energy.
Thank you. We finally made it happen.
I know. It's actually going to be such a open conversation. We've just been talking prior to pressing record about how little prep I've deliberately done, because every time Andy and I talk, it just goes so far and I just learn so much. So my intention for this episode is to let the listeners and viewers in on that experience.
Love that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
But being a podcast queen, I'm not going to start with absolutely nothing. I have actually written down a question that I want to both unpack, just basically have a discussion about, because I've seen, for those who don't know Andy and haven't already looked him up after the bio I've read to you in the intro, he's got a very successful video agency called Expansion Media, and he's recently scaled it to what I can only perceive as like some of us are dreaming for. And I want to have a discussion about what the cost of that might be. So the question I'd like to open this conversation with is, what do entrepreneurs have to give up in the pursuit of financial success?
Oh my gosh. What a question. Wow. So what do entrepreneurs need to give up? Perhaps the giving up part is perhaps where the reframing needs to happen. I don't know, because I think it's more of an order of priorities of what comes first in the entrepreneurial pursuit. Financial success can mean different things to different people. So it's more of a question around, what do you need to build in order to serve you and what you're trying to do? And that's kind of going to look different for everybody.
How did it look for you?
Well, my background before getting into Expansion Media was filmmaking. I was a creative at heart. I grew up sort of making films, and, you know, my dream was to make it to Hollywood and, you know, just be up there winning an Oscar and like competing with the elite directors. And I went to film school and I kind of did all that, but I've really quickly realized, I was like, oh wow, money is a resource that you need in life. And I was like, crikey, how do I do this? Because, you know, I made films, short films, and I was working I eventually got a job at the Fox Studios working on a TV show. But I was like, oh, this isn't like the creative, like I'm just a grunt in the big wheel, right? And I was like, okay, how do I become like a successful filmmaker? Because that was the original goal. And then I was like, well, you've got to go out and make your own films. But I was like, every filmmaker I know is busted up and broke, and they're all like that struggling artist and that starving artist kind of thing. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that, because like I want to provide a good life for myself. And one day at that point in time, I was like, when I get a partner and if maybe I'll have kids, I don't want to put them through the starving artist phase. They don't deserve that. I said, so I've got to somehow find a way to provide for myself and for those who I care about, plus fulfill the dream. So that became the new brief. And then I went, okay, well, you know, where can I leverage my creative abilities to make money, basically. And that's where the conversation started about business. And then I said, well, let's start making videos for business. And then when I got into business, I went, wow, I was like a baby tasting a lolly for the first time. I was like, wow, holy shit, I love this. Like, I have a genuine interest in this. And I was a little bit obsessed with it in the early days. Still am to a certain degree. But yeah, it kind of evolved from that. And then I was like, okay, I remember like when I made my first sale, and I'm like, okay, cool. So like I made my first sale. I can make money doing this. If I just scale this 100 times, I can give myself the platform to give myself the lifestyle that I want to then do the thing that I really want to do. And you know, I started Expansion Media as a sole trader in 2014 when I was 24 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how recently did you make the transition to a company?
Very recent, as in like within the last 12 months.
And what did you need to do in order to like make that step, you know? Because obviously it's a complete different structure as a sole trader as it is to a company.
Yeah. Man, there's so much that has to happen before we get, you got the legal boring stuff, which we don't really need to talk
Don't even
about.
care about.
Yeah, like legal,
Like,
I didn't even know.
obviously listeners know there's a lot more to it, but
Yeah. Let's go let's talk about the transition from being like a solopreneur, a sole trader, to transitioning to having potentially a business partner and a team.
let's actually first start, if you don't mind, with the mindset that you have to make that transition.
Like I was saying before, there needs to be a reason why you're pursuing this journey. Like if it's just to look cool, or just to like, if it's just like a side hustle sort of thing, or something that's just like, because everybody else is doing it, I'll start this agency thing, and you know, you probably won't last really long. So my mindset was, through thick or thin, I have to be able to scale what I'm doing to a point where I'm able to focus on creative projects for a long period of time at my own discretion. Anything that I want to do, it could be a documentary, it could be a film project for Netflix that will take 10 months. I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So how can I create a lifestyle that will kind of support that? So the mindset kind of was like, there's a lot of stuff you got to accept that you don't know. And I had like mentors and different coaches that I was paying for that were helping me with like sales and marketing and just like overall like business operations. And one thing that you learn really quickly, or one thing I learned really quickly, was at every point in business, and usually when you're starting out, it's usually tied to how much money you're making. In order to break through to the next level or the next phase in business, it's going to require a higher version of yourself, right? So the type of personality that I am and the characteristics that I've had in the past have led me to where I am today. But in order for Andy to get to that next level, whatever that may look like, there's a certain learning and a certain like breakthroughs that I need to have in order to get there. And the mindset needs to be that I'm open and I am accepting of the breakthroughs that I need to have. And I'm willing to be accountable to that goal, to push through that. So when the pressure arises, which it will, that you go, this is that part they said in the narrative that's like, oh, now you have to rise up. And a lot of people, when that happens, they don't rise up to the level that they need to be, and they end up playing small. And what are those challenges? It could be financial challenges. It could be the fear of being seen. It could be a fear of making more sales calls. It could be a fear of investing. It could be a fear of investing in your team, a fear of investing into a mentor. You know, it's all usually fear-based. So you kind of have to make advocacy and I'll say fear. I won't say friend, but you kind of got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, not to sound gaggy, but yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, wow, there's so much in that I want to.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's a massive, it's a big deal, because there's a I don't know who coined this kind of philosophy, but this is something that I'm really big on, right? It's the be do have philosophy. Are you aware of the be do have?
No.
Perfect. So like when I first heard this, I didn't understand it. And I had another agency in 2018. I started it with two business partners as a side agency. And one of my business partners was like this really philosophical dude that just taught me so much. And I'm genuinely so thankful that me and him crossed paths. We're no longer business partners today, but I learned so much from him. And he taught me this be, do, have philosophy, which now today I hear a lot of these kind of mentor guys talk about. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's like what he was telling me back then. The be, do, have philosophy is basically the way that the world perceives their own life. So a lot of people will focus on having things. So I want to have this life. I want to have a business. I want to have a gazillion dollars in the bank account. I want to have the perfect partner. I want to have this, right? There's a portion of people who focus on having. Then there's a portion of people who focus on doing. And the doing is like, oh, well, I want to do this business. I want to do that service. I want to do this. I want to speak on stage. They focus on the physical activity of the doing. And then there's a very small portion that focus on being, which is becoming. So the question we got to ask ourselves is, it's not so much what do I need to do to have that thing? It's who do I need to first become to then do the thing, to then have the thing that I want. And if you get to focus on becoming who you want to become first as opposed to having, all of a sudden the pathway before you kind of like unfolds and you are now capable of walking that path, because you can't run $1 million business with a $100,000 mindset. You need a like $5-10 million mindset to run $1 million business. Like you have to level yourself up. So a lot of the game early stages is internal.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And then I feel as though a lot of people, I mean, especially in the modern business world, because everyone's living online, I think a lot of people get caught up in like content creation and sort of following, like not necessarily like in a bad way, but if you start a business, you start just creating content and then not actually seeing content as a asset, like this is an investment in my business that I hope will one day have a return on investment, you know, in way of customers or authority or whatever it is. And I think that, first you need to go through the mindset of what you need to, I started this conversation with the question of like, what do you need to give up? And I think your answer is essentially like your old self or your old beliefs and your old patterns, basically.
Yeah, very well put. Yeah, that's right.
Because you're not going to be able to unlock the next level with being whoever that person is. But then I think there's the part where you actually need to build a foundation for yourself in order to be a business and to generate leads, to be seen as an authority in your space. And I've certainly, since I've known you, I think one of the first times we met when you first came into the studio, for those who don't know, Andy is kind of a regular, I would say, like at On Track. So he comes in with one of his clients, and you were saying how you have recently transitioned into just serving builders with your video agency. And I was like, whoa, like that's the ultimate, like, because we all hear this like advice, like niche down on your craft. And I feel like previously I had perceived niching down as a service orientated thing rather than an audience orientated thing. And you were the first person to like kind of actually show me that you can niche in the sense of like who you serve as opposed to what your service is. And you've done both those things. And I wonder if that's what we can credit to your success outside of the mindset stuff. Would you say that is? Has it played a role?
Yeah, 100%. Like the mindset stuff led me to niching.
Yeah.
So it's like niching is a huge part of growth.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of the big dogs and titans in business, everybody started out as a niche. You know, the philosophy has always been like going narrow before going wide. So if you want to crack like a business idea, focus first on solving a specific problem to a specific type of person, become a master at that, and then look to scale it from there.
Yeah.
And there's we can talk about it. There's a lot of reasons why doing it that way is just a lot more efficient and effective. And I call them the term I would use is, it's a generalist versus a specialist.
Yeah.
A generalist is somebody who I was a generalist at one point because I knew no better. We're a video agency. We serve everybody from health and fitness to food to e-com to service-based businesses to coaching to startup apparel brands to seasoned national companies. We're everyone. But what I quickly realized was that as a generalist, you are not positioned as a premium company or as a premium solution.
Mm-hmm.
And positioning is a big deal if you want to charge a premium. And there was a season in business where I had run ads, where I was still a sole trader, turned on some Facebook ads, and I got a lot of leads. I think I got in 2 months, it was 60, 70 leads come through.
Wow.
Of that, there was about 30 booked appointments. It was insane. And my phone was just pinging off. I'm like, holy shit, I've cracked the code, right? I'm going to be a gazillionaire because I've just sat in my room, run some ads, and now I've got people booking into my calendar. All I got to do is close the deals and I'm rich. So when I started jumping on all the calls, I was jumping on calls with people, as I said, from various industries. And the problem started showing at that point. They were the problems that everybody came to me with were all slightly different. And I couldn't become a master at solving their problems because just simply I wasn't a master at solving their problems, but B, I hadn't spent enough time understanding their vertical. I didn't necessarily have the solution. Yes, I had a video, but people don't want the product. They want the outcome.
Yes.
So it's it's the outcome that you got to become a specialist in sort of achieving, content and marketing stuff. They're all vehicles towards the outcome that people want. And as a generalist, you provide a vehicle, but as a specialist, you provide an outcome. And that was the difference. And I said, in order for me to make bank, I have to become a specialist. And I think by the end of those calls, I was so deflated. And I was I think I actually made about 60, 70 grand on the back end of that season, but it was just a slog. I ended up getting a close, a data recovery company, an app for safety events. It was just all these sorts of things. And I'm in order for me to go from client A to client B, I had to go deep down this rabbit hole in one industry and then come back out and then go deep into another one. I'm man, that is just how am I meant to become an absolute boss in these areas if I'm just hanging around in the shallow end? And the kind of the analogy that I use with some of my sort of creative friends, if I say, is the money's made in the deep end. I said, but it takes time to swim out to the deep end. I said, you don't really make a lot of money in the shallow end. I said, so all the big fish, all the big whales, all the big dogs, the big stuff happens in the deep end. Swim out to the deep end. And what's the shallow end? The shallow end is being a generalist and just going from here to here, just really just haphazardly going through different sort of industries, and you're no different to the next person down the road.
Yeah.
And a lot of people when people are serious, they don't want to just be just another business. They want to be the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We, in the construction game, residential builders, we work with residential construction companies in Australia and the US. Every single one of them want to be the best. But how would they feel engaging somebody who isn't the best to make them the best? It wouldn't happen. So we have to become the best first. How do we do that? We have to swim out to the deep end. We have to, specialize, niche into an industry, become the goats there, and then become that figure, that example where these other guys can look at us and be that's who we want to become. These are the guys, they specialize in this. And from a business, commerce side of things, it makes sense financially as well, because now you can charge more premium, you can make more profit. And when you start making more profit, then you can grow a team. And when you make a team, you can then scale your services, and the ball kind of rolls from there.
Yeah. God, I love it. It's so funny because before I met you, I thought I had niched because I was like, I'm service-based businesses. That's who I typically serve. After speaking to you a couple of times, I was like, that is so broad, and absolutely I'm not the professional at that. And then I looked back at all the transformations I had done with my clients, mostly coaching, because obviously that's me actually, in the back end with them, not just doing the podcast production service. But I was like, wow, I've actually helped mostly health and fitness and self-development. And I had this light bulb moment where I'm like, oh, I should just replicate that, like market that service of a podcast funnel for those people and then like go that way, as opposed to being a generalist, which is what I was doing, which is, the move I've decided to make now. But at the time I was like, oh, but like, I loved working with this client, which was this, complete other business. And like, it was just this, acceptance that I was like, it felt like giving up. It felt like letting go of something that I really enjoyed doing with other clients. And I just thought, wow, that's just so weird that I wasn't even aware of the attachment that I had to serving quite a broad audience. So thanks for that.
So, sorry, just to clarify, you were attached to serving, opening your doors to anyone and everyone.
Well, yeah. Anyone who would come to me would be served, and that's still true, by the way. But I mean, in terms of like honing my craft, I have decided that I need to I decided to go for the approach. I just looked back and be like, who have I consistently worked with that got the results that I claim anyone can get, right? Because I do believe that my method can work for a lot of different industries and businesses, but whether I'm the professional, master, I guess, at exactly that. Like, I would probably be challenged if a builder came to me. 100% would be challenged if a builder came to me and said, like, I want X amount of sales from your method, which is a podcast funnel. And sure, I'd work it out. And that would kind of be how I would operate. I'd just work it out, but I wouldn't be as confident as if just say someone in the self-development space or health and fitness industry person came, because I know I'm like, yep, sweet, let's do this. And then we'll roll it out this way and we should get these results and then tweak these things. It's just a more natural kind of process that I'd go through. And so I guess in terms of scaling my business from where it is now, I need to bring in more intention to who my target audience is, which means letting go of the others, I guess.
100%.
Would you agree with that? Like, if you were my mentor, would you agree with that approach?
Yeah, if I was your mentor, I would agree with that approach. I wouldn't base it off like how I feel entirely. Like, if I like working with these guys, like I love making funny videos. But like business wise, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Right? You kind of got to tailor the solution to the outcome. So like the health and so I'll give you the example of why construction industry, right? So construction industry is like, I have a YouTube video that talks about like how to niche and why to niche in specific areas. And there's different ways you can niche. This is such a big topic.
Yeah, it is. But I'm glad you brought this up because I was going to, if you didn't.
Yeah. So you got like as a creative business, there's different type of niching sort of practices that you can do. So you can do like as you said, a service-based style niche. You can do like a geo target niche. So you only work in a specific area. You can do a stylistic niche. So we only do this style of work. And you can do an industry niche, which is what we've done. We've niched into an industry. And different types of niching produce different type of outcomes. I believe that the strongest type of niching is industry niching because you're surrounded by the same problems more consistently. And therefore you can become the boss at understanding those problems, become the best master at solving those problems. But another question to ask is, again, we're talking about business here, right? So why are we in business? Let's get real. We're in business to make money, to serve the lifestyle that we want to create and live life, right? That's all we want to do. We're not in business because we just got told to be in business. We're in business because as entrepreneurs, we're trying to find creative ways to solve problems, exchange value and give value into this world to then generate a life where you can feel fulfilled, be proud of, and live with love and family and, like live the life that you dream of when you go to bed at night, right? So what does that point to? We got to make money. That's it. So when choosing an industry, we've got to ask ourselves less about who do we want to serve, but what problem do we want to solve? And there's different problems, right? If I say to you, Sophie, I've got a problem. And you say, Andy, what's your problem? I say, I'm thirsty. And then you say to me, Andy, if you give me $10, I'll go down the road and get you a cup of coffee. Cool, give you $10. You come back, give me a cup of coffee. You've just solved my problem. Cool, right? But if you turn around and say to me, Andy, give me 50 grand and I'll go and get a cup of coffee. I'm like, this thirst that I have isn't worth 50 grand. I'll go down the road and get it myself, right? Let's compare that with, I come to you, Sophie, and I say, hey, Sophie, my business is in the dumps. We have all this market potential. We've got a really effective service. And I just feel like we're just hidden under a rock. I feel like I'm this close to striking oil. And I just need some guidance and some help. And I don't know specifically what it is, but I need someone to help me take me to the next level. All of a sudden, this problem is a big deal. And because it's a big deal to that person, where the big problems are, the big paychecks follow. So the question we ask when niching is, what are the big problems that we can solve that we can see ourselves fulfilling that position, right? If you want to, Elon Musk is trying to make us multi-planetary, like I can't solve that problem. That's his thing, right? But we're in the creative space. We can use our services, right? So what problem can I solve using the abilities that I have that can make bank, where there's a market opportunity, where there's there's actually businesses with this problem, and I can actually make this happen? I would start the conversation from that point on. So let's say, for example, let's say like the health and fitness. What is that? PTs, for example. Well, the average personal trainer, what's one client worth to them? Like, what are they trying to get? They're trying to get a personal trainer, trying to get clients, right? Each session could be, let's just round numbers, $100 a session, right? They might be selling 5 session packs. That's $500. So if I help a personal trainer get clients, if I get one client for them, that equals $500, right? Cool, happy days. If I look at that versus the construction industry, if I get one client in the construction industry, that could be a $2.5 million project. The average profit margin of these projects are, let's just say 10%, right? So that's 10% of 2.5 million is 250,000. I get one client for the construction industry, it's 250,000. I get one client for the personal development, the PT space, it's $500.
Yeah, I hear you.
As a business owner, I have to make a decision in going, do I want to target the PT space and then deal with like 100 or 200 PTs in order to make my bank? Or do I want to specialize in the construction industry where might get 2 or 3 builders where we only have to do there's a lot of deep work, but if we get one client, it's a big deal. And sometimes the answer might be the PT space because you're set up to scale. I wasn't set up to scale. I'm like, I'd rather spend time working our asses off to get 1 or 2, but have massive impact. And we got clients doing like $3 million builds, $4 million builds from the funnels that we're running. They go, oh, our marketing partners just bring us the clients. They're keeping us in business. It's like it's a healthy green ecosystem. Yeah. Right. And that's how I would kind of create a formula to decide where to niche.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool. I really appreciate that because that's good advice, because it's a good point. I wouldn't, my niche isn't PTs. It's more like naturopaths and programs and stuff like that. But it's a good point because still, depending on their audience size and their authority already built would determine how much,
And what my point in what I'm saying there is, just because you're niche doesn't mean you've solved the problem of being a generalist, because you might niche in toilet cleaners.
Yeah.
And like, there's 2 toilet cleaners on the sunny coast.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it's like, well, dude, that's the worst niche you just picked.
Yeah,
But it's like,
100%.
but I'm niched, man. Like the gurus say to niche. It's like, yeah, but you got to think about what you're niching into, bro. Like,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you got to think. And another thing you said in that YouTube video was like, is there actually a demand for what you're offering in that particular category of or industry, which is the other question to ask. Yeah, wow. I feel like with your expertise and like you've obviously started with brand stories for your clientele, and then you've expanded into a full service like ads. Is it ads and website builds, or is that what's your full service premium service?
So our premium service is the brand story video funnel. So we'll create, I guess they're not full websites, but we have to create landing pages as part of the funnels. So we'll create all like the video content, serving like the top of funnel right down to the bottom of funnel. And we distribute stuff organically and through paid ads. So we'll like run Facebook, Instagram, Google ads and create all the content for that.
Yeah. And do you do organic content usually?
We don't. We've had to do it so we do, but it's been a bolt on.
Yeah.
So we solve this one problem, and then when they come to us, they'll spend like 6 months with us, 12 months with us. And then other problems pop up, and then we just solve them because we're already fully set up. We're pretty rooted into their company by that point.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So what would you say has worked the best in terms of strategy? Like if you had a marketing budget, which you do, like you get whatever from your clients, where's the first allocation of that budget, and what's the split between ad spend versus creative versus the actual content and all of those things?
It's a big question. So like this, what's the best strategy? I guess the question that I have is, what's the goal? What are we trying to do? So it's like, depending on where they're at and how established the brand is, sometimes we can just go straight to market. Sometimes it's like, for example, one of our clients, Gold Leaf Constructions, they already had a pretty good brand. They were pretty well established. And we just had to create like brands. We just had to create some brand story videos and just literally flood the market, geographically targeted. And that worked extremely well for them. And now we're sort of like building on that. But then there are some guys who aren't as established. So one of the things we have to do is like refine their messaging, look at their brand positioning. Some guys unfortunately aren't even set up on Google. Like they're super early days, but they have, there could be like a $7 million company. They don't even have a Google presence because they've built their whole business through referrals.
Yeah, you can do that in that industry. Hey,
100%. But then they have like, the son could be taking over the father's business and then wanting to take things to the next level. So I guess like what I'm sort of sharing there is like there's different strategies for different outcomes. And it's like where do you allocate your budget to Facebook, to Meta or to Google Ads or to creative? I would always go, if they have creative, I would leverage instantly whatever they have, would just repurpose it a little bit and then put it into paid ads through Meta. And just generally speaking, because the buying cycle is so long in the construction industry, when somebody's buying a house or building a house, it's not an overnight decision. It takes months. So we want to be able to retarget people, and Meta is the best platform to do retargeting. So, we would run like lead magnet funnels, get opt-ins, and then retarget that way, and then eventually move to Google Ads.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like the split between that might be like 2-3 months.
Yeah. Interesting. That's what I would expect it to be. But I was wondering what your general strategy is, because you do really well for your clients. So good job.
Thank you.
So I'm going to shift gears slightly and change up the conversation. I've got, the listeners already know that I've got questions. Thought-provoking podcast questions is the title of them.
Wow.
And basically all you have to do, my friend, is pick a number from 1 to 100, and then we see what the question is and then we go for it.
All right. I'll go 77.
77. Everyone loves the 70s.
Yeah. That's where it's at.
Okay. Oh, I'm so curious on this.
Oh no, Sophie, what are you doing?
No, this is a good one for you. How do you help others see the value in themselves?
Oh, wow. Wow, what a question. How do I help others see the value within themselves? Oh, man. What comes to mind is I am big on shifting people's perspectives. The biggest problem I see that a lot of people have is people have a really kind of like shortfall or a lack of self-belief. And even if I just think of like my relationship with my partner, when I hear her say things to me like, "Oh, that's not good," or like, "Oh, I don't know if that's going to work. Will people find like value in that?" When she's talking about her business, I always find myself reinforcing all of her good things, but through her kind of like I believe everybody's got a creative genius within them. Like I've got one. You will have something that is uniquely yours, right? And I think I guess it's through conversation and through helping people identify through conversation what makes them so unique, and then just edifying them that way. I think like in short, I would say that's how I do it. I find myself having conversations with friends and like fellow sort of business entrepreneur people, and the lack of self-belief is actually quite evident.
100%.
And it's like you need to be your own best friend, but you need to be your own biggest cheerleader.
100%.
And you just have to back yourself. So it's like, yeah, I think if it's just through conversation, and sometimes like, this is the thing, you might find it hard to do that for somebody if you haven't first done it for yourself. And I think because I've done it for myself, and I've experienced so many times where I was like, it's all or nothing here. And I backed myself and I saw it. And that's what I encourage in others. I'm like, dude, you might be at a turning point now where like, business owners going like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to quit my business and get a job because I'm too scared. I'm not going to make enough money. And then I'll say to you, at that point, I say like, this is the turning point that either makes or breaks you. And this is the turning point that a lot of people who wish they would make it, this is where they give up. So you've actually got an opportunity now to actually like take the next step forward, and us just become friends with adversity and like make it yours and own that path. And I think because I've done it, I can kind of speak to it a little bit more. And when I say I've done it, I've done it and I'm doing it. I'll continue to do it. It's a forever.
It's levels. You've gotten to where you are, but there's always more.
Correct. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers the question, does it?
Yeah, no, I think it does. But I'll actually share, because I feel like I've been on the receiving end of you doing this with me many a time. But particularly one time when I was writing my book and I was telling you about it, and you're like, what are you going to call it? And I was like, podcasting for business. And you're like, nah, you are underselling what you do. Like, you're not just starting a podcast, so you're not helping people create a podcast. You need to call it dominate your industry. And I was like, so fucking true. Like, and so alas, it's now called dominate your industry. And I just thought, wow, like, because I believe that. Like, I completely heard that, and I was like, the funny thing is like, I actually have that self-belief in my service anyway, and I've gone through my own thing and seeing value in what I do. But the fact that I have done that and then also still went with like the underselling approach with the title of the book caught me by surprise, because I was like, oh, I guess I remember thinking about the title being like, I just want this to be so obvious what this book is, and then for them to be surprised later when they implement it. Like, that was kind of my like little internal thing. But I was like, why would I lead with something less than what it is? Like, so interesting. So I would answer the question, and how do you help people see the value in themselves? You just see it and you say it. And I was like, I think you've done that many times around me, whether it's to me or to other people. So nice. There you go. So I want to do 3 of these questions. So you got to pick another one, and then.
Okay. Let's go 44.
44.
I like that answer.
That I said about you?
No, that's cool. Yeah, you see it and you say it.
Yeah.
See it and say it.
That is what you do fully. You don't just see it and not say it.
Yeah.
Unless maybe for some people.
Get me in trouble though.
For sure.
Yeah.
I imagine it could.
I think I get it from my mum.
Yeah.
If ever you put on weight, my mum will be the first one to notice and vocalize it. Wow, you've gotten fatter. And she says it with no malice. Like, it's just,
Oh, wow, mom.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, don't comment on people's body types. Mum can, you can't.
Yeah.
Okay, so 44. Ooh. What's a personal flaw or weakness that you've had to confront?
I think thinking that I'm more than what I actually am.
Oh,
Yeah.
talk to me about that.
Yeah.
Say more.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. So like, I have often in in my sort of journey, I have found myself thinking that I've caught myself thinking like I'm more. It's not a direct thought, and maybe perhaps I see it in hindsight, but like I won't do certain things because I have this fear of failing in front of others or fear of being perceived a certain way. And if it's not in alignment with how I see myself, I won't do it. But the problem with that is you sometimes just have to do shit and just fail shit and be all good with that. And that's just what it is. That's just a part of that chapter, right? But the flaw was like thinking too highly of myself and being like, well, nah, I shouldn't do that because like I'm kind of too good for that, or like I've been in this journey long enough. I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to go knock on more doors because like, you know, people who knock on doors are like desperate. You know, oh, you're not desperate, bro. Like you've got it together. You know, and I think that's kind of held me back. And like, I actually said this to Christina the other day. I said one of the problems that we have in general is we think we're more important than what we actually are.
I actually hear that. And that's very...
I've heard it before, but I've never actually like kind of fully comprehended it. And I'm like, or comprehended the effects of it. And what that does is it actually keeps you playing small.
I agree.
Like people will be like too afraid to fail. And there's this reel I saw the other day. It's like, I'll shift your perspective on no. What if you're only 20 no's away from running $1 billion company?
100%.
And you're like, oh shit, I'd be quick to get no's, you know? But because we don't want to sometimes
Take a backward step almost, or be perceived
as somebody who doesn't have it all together, because you see yourself as somebody who is like all together. And I think if you accept that, and this is what I've come to accept, that I've accepted that my worth and self-worth isn't attached to business. Me without my business, I'm still awesome. And I say that with no kind of like, you know, egotistical intention, but I've got enough evidence that like, I ask myself like, this is going to sound a bit gaggy, but like, would I befriend myself? Like if I was outside of myself, would I be like, wow, Andy's actually a cool guy. Like I'd love to have a beer with him. I'd be like 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I love like what I do. Like I'm proud of the decisions that I've made. But next to that, at the same time, I'm also forever going to be a work in progress, and that is okay.
Yeah.
That is completely fine.
Yeah.
So sometimes we think so highly of ourselves that it stalls our action.
100%. I can completely relate to all of that personally as well. I think that's just the journey of being a high achiever and an ambitious person. Every single element of that. Because I've had the same conversation. I'm like, because I used to be way more attached to my business, and I'm proud to say I'm less attached now. And it's very freeing because it could all crumble tomorrow. And of course I'd be upset, but I've still got a whole lot of, you could ask like a lot of people in my life, describe Sophie to me, and them not mention a single thing about business. And to me though, it's like, you know, my whole focus really, or 80%. So that's, really insightful.
The perspective that helps shift that is, I don't know if I shared this with you, but if you think about it, in 100 years' time, everybody that you know will be gone. You'll be gone. There'll be a completely new set of human civilization. There'll be a completely new set of problems, new set of goals, new set of ambitions. The homes that we have now, new people will be living in them. And we'll just be memory to some. Some will have even forgotten about us. We may just be a photo in a photo album somewhere that nobody opens. And we all have the same fate. The only guarantee in life is death. Like, not to be gloomy about it, but that is a reality. And when you look at that reality from a positive and appreciation and gratitude perspective, all of a sudden, it's a lot easier to shed off that sort of high-mindedness and that egotistical mindset if you have one. Because you go, well, shit, like, I always think, like, you know, Alexander the Great in all of his glory still ended up in the grave. King Solomon, you know, from the Old Testament and biblical times ended up in the grave. And he was, you know, the richest man on earth at the time. You know, the late Kobe Bryant, as great as he was, he still ended up, like, you know what I mean? That's everybody's fate. We cannot avoid it. So it's like, why are we holding, this is the conversation I have with myself. It's like, dude, why are you holding this self-image up that's not serving you? Like, let go of it and just like be free and just move and like accept that like everybody is going through shit the same way that you are, and it's all good. You know, like, don't get so caught up on how people perceive you. They've got their own problems, man. Like, they're caught up in their own world. And when you have that perspective of like, you understand that whole 100-year thing, and then you go, wow, what does that do? It gives you the ability to be present in the now, and not just be present, but have like gratitude and appreciation for now. And when you have that kind of like gratitude and appreciation for now, you're able to operate from a more like positive and proactive and like above the line thinking. You're not so negative about life because, well, we all know the outcome. So I might as well just give it a shot.
100%. I couldn't relate more to that. That's, your self-talk sounds very similar to mine. Have you ever heard of Enneagrams?
No.
No. We'll talk about it after and I'll tell you about it because I think we'd be the same one.
Okay.
Okay, next one final question. What number are you going to choose?
Do you want to choose a number for me or no?
Okay. No, you choose it.
Okay. I'll go 76 because I did 77.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you handle criticism from people who don't understand your vision?
Oh. I sometimes feel sorry for, I don't really get a lot of
So sorry that you can't understand this complex thing.
I don't think I get a lot of criticism, which might be a bad thing, but whenever I have in the past, I've actually like, I feel more sorry for them. Yeah, like I don't really, it literally just water off a duck's back for me. Like I don't really, I'm just trying to think who can faze me. Like it'd probably be the people closest to me that I'd be more concerned about. Like people who don't know me, I'm like,
Don't care.
I'm like, man, like
Yeah.
haters gonna hate. Like, man, I hope you work out your shit, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
take all that anger and like use it for good.
Yeah.
Like,
Good luck.
You're
Yeah.
better than this, you know.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I don't really have. Yeah, I can't really. I mean, we've had negative comments on ads and all that before, and I see it as great because like we get taught that like the more haters you have online, the better.
Yeah.
In terms of like ad circulation and like the effectiveness of ads, but yeah, I think it's not too much of a concern of mine, and I think next to like what I just said in terms of that, like nobody's perfect kind of thing. So even if they are right, I'm like, oh shit, well that's a good point. I appreciate that.
100%. I feel like if you're not criticizing others with malice, you're rarely getting criticism with malice. So that's probably why you're not getting that in your life.
Yeah.
Or noticing it, being affected by it.
Unless people are giving me shit, I'm just completely like oblivious to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss.
It's great.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has just been a great chat and I appreciate your insight always. And thanks for sharing it with the audience.
Thank you so much for having me, Soph.
You're very welcome. Farewell.
Farewell.